Welcome to Beats and Bourbon, where we dive into the journeys of DJs and sip some cool bourbon along the way. My name is DJ Vader. I'm your host, and my guest is none other than the legendary DJ Rell E Rell out of Cleveland, Ohio. And Rell's been in the game a little while, and I just want to know about his journey, who gave him major influences, what do you think about today's DJ technology, and more. All right, coming up right here, Beats and Bourbon. Welcome to Beats and Bourbon. My name is DJ Vader, Cincinnati-based DJ who has traveled the world DJing alongside some of the greatest names in DJ and music icon history. Today, we're diving into the world of Beats and Bourbon, a fascinating new show that's all about the music, the drinks, and the stories that bring them together. Beats and Bourbon is a unique blend of music and entertainment featuring some of the most talented artists in the industry, from country to pop to rock to hip hop and everything in between. The show is all about celebrating the artists and their craft. But it's not just about the music. Beats and Bourbon also explores the world of spirits, with each episode featuring a different bourbon and cocktail recipe. So, if you're a music lover or a cocktail connoisseur, the show is definitely for you. Beats and Bourbon. Rell, how you doing, man?
Vader, what's happening, my brother?
Oh man, just honored that you're here with us on this Beats and Bourbon.
Super honored to be here as well, man. Thank you for having me, man.
No problem. So tell the people about you.
All right, man. DJ Rell E Rell, man. Born and raised in Cleveland. Been DJing about 35 years now.
35?
35, which is crazy.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's been a minute. You know, a few moments I've been DJing now. But yeah, man, I got into this game very early. And believe it or not, actually, I'm later than early. Most of the guys around me started DJing when they were like really teenagers and in high school. I didn't actually start DJing until I was in college. So it was probably my sophomore year in college. I kind of caught that bug about the music and started seeing DJs and hanging around DJs and just was fascinated by the way they would just rock a party and mix and do all of that. And I was just kind of mesmerized by it. That's kind of where the bug started for me, trying to learn how to DJ.
So with that, would you say, give me some of your early struggles when you were DJing, when you first started out?
The hardest thing was getting the ear for music. Most DJs will all understand that it's something that you really can't teach. You just have to catch it. And when I say about the ear, that's basically being able to hear 2 and 3 different things going on at the same time and then being able to separate them simultaneously. So that was very struggle in the beginning, but once I caught it, then it was like, oh wow, whole world just opened up of things that I knew I could probably try and experiment with. So once that came about it, then it was a matter of, okay, now I got to learn this music and figure out what goes with what, because okay, I can hear 2 different things going on, but these 2 don't match. So now we got to figure out, the whole thing of what songs go with what. And in the early days, I didn't organize crates by BPM like we do now. My crates were organized by genre, and I just kind of knew my records. So, I had a hip hop crate, an R&B crate, a reggae crate, an old school crate, a remix crate. And you just kind of figured as you started playing music, what kind of went with what. And then that's kind of how I learned DJing and blending and mixing and everything.
So when would you say that you knew that DJing was your thing? Like, did it start out as a hobby, or did you know from the beginning, like, that was your thing?
Really, it came out as a hobby. I always loved music. Music is something that's been around me all my life, being at home, with my mom playing old school music all the time and just being around the family and everything. So I always loved music all the time. It wasn't until once I started playing around with the turntables and vinyl and things like that, then it was something that fascinated me. So it was going to kind of be like a hobby. But once I got into it and I started creating things, started kind of making my own little mixtapes in college and everything, then I was like, okay, this is kind of cool. And then people started hearing certain things. They was like, who made this? And I was like, I did. And they were like, you made this? So, kind of started making these mixtapes and, little blends and edits and, doing from the slow jam mixes and the whole nine and putting those, those playlists together and everything. And then it started turning into being able to mix records together. So you going from one to the other and kind of keep that seamless thing. So it still was more or less of a hobby, but I was like, man, it's got to be a way that I could probably start doing this. And, hey, maybe down the line I'll make some money doing it, but it was never about the money. I just was fascinated the fact that I was like, oh my God, I created this. I was able to do this. So now my wheels are turning all the time. It's like, okay, what can I come up with next?
So do you remember your first gig?
Man, my first gig, I guess paying gig. Well, I would say the first gigs really were doing stuff for the family. So in college, what happened, my one of my fraternity brothers, he was a DJ, but he had kind of stopped. So he had all this equipment that was just sitting in storage. He was like, I was like, can I borrow it, just to practice? He was like, yeah. So I took it, set it up in my apartment, and I was getting records from my other buddy who worked at the radio station. So he would get so many extra records all the time. So he would always put stuff to the side for me. And I started building my record collection that way. Started playing around with records and practicing. Came home, kept the equipment when I came home after I graduated, and was started doing stuff for the family. So the family kind of was like, well, we having this cookout. We need somebody to DJ. Why don't you DJ? And I was like, okay. So started just playing music at the family cookouts and the family reunions and stuff. And then ultimately it was like, all right, I'm starting to get a little bit better with this and see eventually I can start, maybe doing this for a fee, make some money off this.
So you graduated from free to fee, huh?
That part. Yeah, no more free 99. I was like, you got to pay me for this, man. This is a lot of work, and I think you had asked me about the early struggles. Once I got going, it was getting to the gigs and being able to transport. That was a difficult process because I had a car. And we all see House Party. He got that little hatchback trying to put all that equipment in the car. That was the issue. My dad had a pickup truck. So and he had a truck with a cap on the back. So I was able to keep stuff covered. The problem was Dad was working. So I'm like, okay, Dad, I need to know, can I use the truck this weekend? I got a gig lined up. I need this truck. So I need to have it by like 4:00. Is that going to be a problem? Oh, no, son, it won't be a problem. My dad's in construction. Now I got to be in an event at like, I got to be there like by 5:30, 6:00 to get set up. And it's like 4, he ain't home, so some of those days would come up where it's like, I got to find a way to get transportation. So, early on, you just don't have the money for all of that. You just trying to basically get the equipment and get there. And you don't really think about, well, how am I going to get all this stuff there and get set up and all that kind of thing. So yeah, those things kind of evolved as time went on, that I was got to find a better way and make sure it was more reliable. And it was always tough relying on and trying to borrow from other people. It just made it tough. But
yeah,
the struggles of a DJ.
Struggles of a DJ. Now, when you first started out, we know that you was using a certain set of equipment. Did you have to borrow other people's equipment, or did you just come out the gate just buying everything?
Oh no! When I first started, I was finding any turntable I could. It was hard to find a belt driven that like the techniques that are belt driven and everything. But my frat brother who had equipment, he had a turntable, and it wasn't a slide pitch; it had the dial pitch. But I was still able to maneuver and manipulate it to do what I had to do. So I borrowed his. And I want to say my other partner had a Gemini. So I was using those turntables to get started, and I got a mixer, had the old realistic mixer we all had started off with. So I was using that. Yeah. So, and it was just a matter of using that for a while. And probably my story that really changed the game for me in terms of getting the DJ, and I was going to do, my uncle called me and was like, hey, I need you to do the family picnic again this year. And what happened, my frat brother was like, hey, I need all my equipment back. I'm moving out. I'm moving back to the house, to his new place, and I need all my stuff back because I'm probably going to get back into it. So I was like, oh. So I had nothing. So everything I was using, except for my records, were from my frat brother. So I was like, I got to give all this equipment back. So I'm like, shoot, what am I going to do? So my uncle was like, yeah, we need you to ring. I was like, Unc, I'm sorry. I'm not going to be able to do it. He was like, why not? I said, well, I had to give all the equipment back. He was like, so you don't have your own stuff yet? I was like, nah, I'm working on that. He was like, so like, what would it cost? You know, if you was gonna get everything and do everything, what would it cost to do everything? And I was like, pricing stuff out and everything. So I said, if I want to do everything the right way, I said it's gonna probably cost me about $1,500. And this was in 1993, 94-ish.
Okay.
So I said, and what I did, I had went and started pricing stuff out. So locally, it wasn't really a lot of places, but I went straight to New York, Upstairs Records. Was like, okay, found a website, or not even a website. I found their advertisement. They had catalogs back then.
Okay.
Found that catalog and was pricing stuff out and was like, all right, this is what I'm gonna need. So I said, it'd be about $1,500. He said, all right. Well, I used to work with my uncle. He was in the car dealership and I used to do dealer trades. And he stayed around the corner. So he was like, hey, run me to the house real quick, which is something he would he'd do it all the time. I'm like, all right, let's go. Take him to the crib. He said, I'll be right back. I'm like, whatever. I'm waiting in the car. Comes back out. He says, look, open your hand. I said, what? Hands me 1,500 big ones right there.
Oh, wow.
I'm like, what? He was like, look, I see what you do. I see how you love this. He says, you have a gift and a talent, and I don't want to see you waste that. So I'm going to invest in you. I'm going to give you this money to get your stuff, get your equipment so you can do these parties and do all these other events that you need to be doing. And I was like, are you serious? He was like, yeah. So I said, I promise I will pay you back. He was like, I know you will. And I took that money, made my order Upstairs Record, got 2 turntables, got me a mixer. I got my Techniques, what you're seeing right here. These are the same ones I ordered, the MK2s. Got a pair of those, got me a mixer. I had a Gemini mixer at the time, and got my cases to go with them and everything, and had everything sent to me. So that's how I got started as far as getting my own equipment. So it was wild. And a lot of people don't know that. My mom didn't even know for a long time because they didn't believe what I was doing. They were like, oh, you got that little music thing. That ain't nothing. I sent you to school to get a degree. What you gonna mess around with all this music? You need to go get a job. I'm like, I got a job, but I love my music. So that was kind of the fix of my early struggle, starting that piece of it.
Okay. All right. So what was, besides, your uncle coming through for you, what other notable big breaks did you have in your journey? Like, what was that one gig that you was like, oh man, I've arrived?
I would probably say the Kappa Boat Ride, which is I'm part of Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated. And our alumni chapter, we always throw a boat ride. I've always attended, but our boat ride was epic in Cleveland. We had 3 floors on the boat. We had over 850 people on this boat. And I was starting to DJ. With the main DJ at that time was DJ Cochise, who was a legend in Cleveland, and now he's in Atlanta, and he's a legend. So he's one of my frat brothers. So he was DJing at the time, and I got the opportunity to DJ on the main floor, which was the big floor that everybody was partying on. We had a jazz band up top and an old school band on the bottom. So Cochise went to the bottom floor, which was kind of the old school crew, and I had the main floor. So they put me on the main floor, and I zoned out and I did my thing, and to the point where, and I knew I had arrived at that point. I think Cochise came upstairs and was like, yo, you are killing it up. He said, ain't nobody downstairs. They all up here. I'm like, yo, are you serious? And I was just doing my thing.
Nice.
But I think to get that validation from a legend like that and to rock out that boat, and from that time on, and our president, our poll market at the time said, I'm gonna give you the shot. Do it. I know you can do it. I'm like, cool, let's do it. And from that point on, I did it for 25 consecutive years. I was the main DJ on that boat. So that was kind of I think I arrived.
Well, that's a big arrival right there.
Yeah, it was huge for me.
So besides that, what's some other memorable sets that you've had?
Probably along with that, I think also that helped me out too, that let me know arrive, was that I was on the radio. I heard my name on the radio. Which was crazy because we would promote the event and they would feature, who was going to be on the boat ride on the commercials and stuff. So and I think even for my people, my parents and all of them, when they heard me on the radio, they was like, oh, okay, well, maybe he is doing a little something. But to do that along with the boat ride, that was a big moment for me. And I was like, wow, I think I have arrived. Now people are like, I heard you on the radio. I was like, yeah, that's kind of crazy. So I think that was a big notable event for me. I was able to we used to do a jazz weekend in the summertime. This is over probably about 7, 8, 9 years ago. But we would do a Sunday jazz day, and I would play with the band, but I would play in between the band set. Well, we would be out there from 2 o'clock to like 6 o'clock on a Sunday, like the summer months and Sundays. And it was like smooth jazz Sundays, but it was like a party at the same time. So my job was to keep the crowd going in between the band sets. Well, that would bring out it was at a vineyard, so that would bring out about 2,500 people at this place every time. And it was a big park, almost like in a pavilion, and everybody would bring their own picnic baskets and their chairs and lawn chairs and everything and just lay out. But I had like 2,500 people rocking with me for my set. And it was just crazy to see an ocean of people just moving to whatever I was playing with. And it was like, wow, I had like 20 minutes, 25 to 30 minutes in my set to just really just kill them. And we did that for about 4 or 5 years, and it was amazing. So we look so forward to doing that. So that kind of set the foundation. The band gave me an opportunity to do that because they were having people just play music in between. It was kind of dead. I was like, let me know if you ever want to DJ. I'd love to do this. He was like, you know what? Let's try it. Man, we never looked back after that. We had everybody. It was every time like 2,500 people busloads were coming in from everywhere to be a part of this event. So it was a great matchup and great combination we had. So I loved it. That was probably an amazing event. We're trying to get it back. We eventually had to stop, but we're trying to get it started up again.
Okay. So speaking of amazing times and venues, are there any venues that you rocked out in that was memorable, that stood out?
Yeah, I mean, I got to rock out at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Nice.
Doing some events there. We had our province meeting and everything there a couple years ago, and the Rock Hall is just amazing. I mean, it's historic. It's where all the inductees come and get inducted, and to be able to rock out on that stage and in that venue, that's pretty amazing. It's like, man, this is a big venue, and it's nice just to be in here. The hall, the aesthetics, the history in there, and to be able to do an event in there was pretty major. And I was actually able to do in there twice.
Okay.
Early on when they first opened up, we had our convention there, and we had some events there. Matter of fact, Dave Hollister was one of the performers, so I was kind of helping him around during that whole event, and got to help out with that, and then turn around almost 20 years later, got to do the event at that venue. So it was pretty amazing.
That's pretty good.
Pretty amazing.
Pretty good. So besides the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, like, you do a lot that you're not even telling us about. Like, you give back to the community, you give back to the kids through music. Why don't you touch on that a little bit? So over the past couple of years, I've always really loved teaching and working with kids and everything in terms of how we're gonna keep this music thing going in this new generation. So DJ Johnny O, who's a legendary DJ here, started Nerve DJs. We were actually in the pioneers with that like 20 some years ago, trying to put this thing together. Well, fast forward 20 years later, now we have an institute. So now I am an instructor at the Nerve DJ Institute. And what we do there is that we teach DJing, podcasting, and beat making to kids in schools and at-risk kids as well. So we have a 5-week program where we go to the schools and we teach DJing 2 days a week for 5 weeks. And then when they come to the Institute, we have a 10-week program where we teach them podcasting, beat making, and DJing. And then when those kids graduate from that class, they'll get the respective equipment that they were working on as part of their graduation, so they can go out and actually start their careers if they want to do that, or start working and start doing things and continue to create and just keep this thing going, this DJ industry going. So I really enjoy just working with the kids and seeing that light come on, and that moment where it's like that aha moment, and like, oh my God, I get it. And to help these kids some of them that are at risk, and once got 2 strikes on them, and we're trying to keep them out the system and keep them so they can do something else with their lives and do it in a positive way. It's amazing, man. I can't put a price tag on that. So I'm enjoying doing that and helping these kids out. All right, well, good. I'm glad that, there's someone like you that can gauge and guide these children into a life of DJing, because DJing is dope. So,
Oh yeah, definitely.
when you're doing things like that with the community, with the children, with the kids, the future of DJing, what do you see as a possible upcoming triumph or fail for future DJs?
Um, I think I think we're gonna be in good hands. I see
Okay.
a lot of young folk out there that are working with DJing and taking it seriously, and learning the craft. One thing we pride ourselves on, we teach them how to work on turntables.
Hmm.
We teach them how to count and how to beat match without looking at a Serato screen and things like
Right.
that. So they learn the basics and the foundation of how to do something, because it's like, we didn't have computers back then. So if your
Hmm.
computer crashed, now you're screwed. Back then, we didn't have to worry about that. So,
Right.
our needles broke. That was probably our biggest issue, or maybe it get too hot and a record will warp, but you were still able to rock a party. So I think they're starting to understand that, and that was the one thing that made them appreciate what they were learning. And now they were like, "Oh man!" So I think now that it just helped spark those creative juices, and now I think we're going to have a good wave of good future DJs coming into the industry as far as being able to create, and then see where they can take it, because this generation is very expressive. They have a lot to say. They
Hmm.
just don't always know how to express it. And being able to give them an opportunity either through podcasting, beat making, and DJing, they're going to be able to expand that and do other things and maybe get their voices heard where they couldn't be heard before. And now they're doing it through music, because now they're like, oh, well, I can make this and DJ bring these songs together to help my record move. It's pretty amazing. So I think we're going to be in good hands, believe it or not.
I agree with you, but let me ask you this:
Mhm.
how has technology changed the world of DJing? Is it good or bad?
That's always a tricky question. I think it's a gift and a curse at the same time. Obviously, I think for the old school DJs like us, it's like, yeah, technology is wonderful because it saves my back. We all know about the struggles of carrying 5 and 6 crates of records
That part.
into an event. That part is always crazy. So now it's all reduced to a hard drive. That's great. I think technology in a lot of ways has made a lot of DJs lazy, meaning that everything's laid out for them so they don't have to work as hard as they used to, which is not always a bad thing, but I think sometimes it stunts the creativity and maybe the way they can continue to grow their music. I don't think you should use the technology to your advantage, but I don't think it should stunt you. And I think sometimes I see it kind of stunting the growth, or they just like, oh, I don't know where I can do this, and they just get lazy on the creativity. I just punch you into BPM and all right, I'm just gonna let these rock like this. And I'm like, that's kind of boring. So I think it's caused a little complacency a lot of times. But on the flip side of it, it's definitely helped if you use it to your advantage in terms of things that you could do with, now we got stems and things like that. And then even learning your equipment to do other things with everything that you couldn't do. Looping is a wonderful feature
Hmm.
now with technology. When back then you better have 2 of those records and know where those parts are to keep that record going. So
Right.
uh, I think those are the goods and bads of both of it.
Okay. So speaking of goods and bads, both of it, what do you have a memorable gig that just went all bad? And if you do, you want to talk about it, or I mean,
Uh, I mean, we have horror stories. I never had like a bad. Well, okay. One of the early events I did, it was interesting. It really wasn't necessarily a thing on me, but I showed the group hired me to do an event. I show up to the event, I'm set up and ready to go.
hmm.
But for whatever reason, they didn't do the proper marketing and nobody showed up. Like
Oh, I've had those.
nobody. Nobody showed up. And I mean, I was there and I'm like, you still gonna pay me. I'm here rocking an empty room, but there's nobody that showed up. So I don't know what happened. But it was weird because that was the first time I'd ever did an event when nobody showed up. And it wasn't my fault, but it was just a very interesting dynamic. And then the look on their face is like, what are we gonna do? I'm like, I don't know what y'all gonna do, but y'all gonna pay me because I fulfilled my part of the deal. I'm sorry nobody showed up. So,
Right.
but
You know, so in a situation like that,
uh-huh.
I've been in similar situations where, the promoter or the person that hired you um, didn't do a great job of
Mhm.
promoting, right?
Right.
In those situations, is it fair to blame the DJ?
I don't think it is, because you hired me to do something for you,
Hmm.
meaning that, I don't think all the marketing and promoting is on the DJ. Now, most DJs, and I know I'm like that, if I'm doing an event, I'm going to promote it. Now, you can't expect me, because I'm promoting it, that everybody's going to show up because I said, hey, Rell's doing a party, you need to be there.
Right.
You still got to do your due diligence and make sure you do everything else. My people will show up if they can, but the hardest part with most of us is that DJs all work the same nights. So now we're competing with the same events on the same nights. So they got to pick and choose where they're going to go. And if they're not familiar with the people that are promoting the party, they may be familiar with the DJ, but they're like, I don't know anything about this group and what they're doing and how they're promoting it. That could be a turnoff, regardless of who's spinning.
True.
True. So I think it's a hand in hand, but I don't think it should be the DJ's fault unless the DJ threw the party.
That's true. That's facts. If the DJ's the promoter, then you definitely can be.
And I've seen that too. I've seen that. I wasn't a part of that, but I've seen that happen. And I'm like, you got to be careful how you do that. But I think the other thing that messed me up as far as a disaster, this is actually as of recent with technology. DJing outside, and it got really hot. And when it gets really hot and equipment don't mix, like laptops and sun do not mix at all.
No.
And I was actually doing a kind of like a festival. It was a weekend event. It was like another jazz type of event where I play in between the groups. And the problem was I'm waiting to do my set, and by the time it was time for me to start my set, and they had me underneath a tent. It was probably about 85 degrees outside that day. So you put me under a tent, it gets actually even hotter because that sun's beaming down. So it was probably about 90 degrees outside that day. And my computer just got overheated, and there was nothing I could really do. I'm playing music, and all of a sudden the computer is just dragging, and it sounds like gargling, and it was just a mess. And I'm sitting there going, this has never happened to me. But that's the first time I ever had that experience. So literally I had to get in my car and crank up the AC and set my laptop on the dashboard right in front of the vent to try to cool it off, because even with a fan, it was just so hot. There was not much I could do. And, I'm trying to explain to people there, the promoters and the people out there, they're like, hey, what's going on? I'm like, it's hot. I don't know. I'm like, it's hot. This heat is not conducive for this computer right now. I say the computer is actually hot to the touch. So that was kind of a very uncomfortable feeling, because I pride myself in being ready. I had a backup, but it didn't matter. It was still hot.
Okay.
Nothing you could do. So it was a tough. We got through it.
Okay.
We got through it, because once that set was over, and I was able to pivot, and be able to hook up my phone and play some tracks I had saved in my phone that I was able to get through. They wanted some line dances. I was able to get through with some line dances. But in the meantime, my car was running next to us, had my laptop in there and the air conditioner on full blast until it was time for me to do my next set.
Hilarious. Look, now some DJs, they're very particular about having backups of backups of backups. Like, so I remember doing a gig years ago, and the DJ brought 2 laptops. He had his hard drives, his external hard drives, and he had a flash drive just in case things went wrong. He also had a CD crate, and I mean, he had. I was like, it was almost overkill. Yeah. He had a controller, he had his techniques, and it was It was like a smorgasbord of stuff. And he's like, man, I got burnt one time, and he said ever since that moment, I just got to have a backup of everything.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, is at that point a little like overkill? I don't know. Like, so I know that things happen, technology happens. And then we're dealing with electricity. It happens.
Yeah.
I remember DJing a wedding. Unfortunately, they had a power surge and all my speakers went dead.
Yeah.
In the middle of the wedding. And so there was no backup. I was too far out. And it was bad. It was bad. So I do get that. But to get to the point where you're bringing multiple items of the same thing in different mediums, like, is that... I don't know. What's your thoughts on that?
I'm a strong proponent of having backups, because again, I'm primarily, the bulk of what I do are weddings, and that's a big part of my business. So for me, I have to make sure that all of my stuff is ready to go, because the last thing you want to do is to mess up any kind of ritual or things that the first dance or things like that. So all the important things, ceremonial things that you have to do, even for the ceremony, you want to make sure you have all that ready to go and have a backup. I mean, as crazy as it may sound, I actually have a CD player in my rack.
Okay.
And I'll make backup burn CDs just in case something goes wrong.
Got you.
So we call them bailout CDs. That'll bail you out of a trouble in a jam if something comes up. And at least it'll buy you some time while you can try to figure out what's going on.
Oh, yeah,
and
absolutely.
Because also, too, we travel a lot. So we're all over the place, and we're not close to the house or close to where you could be to maybe pick up something, or maybe somebody can bring you something. So I travel with 2 laptops. I travel with extra music and things like that. Not more or less 2 controllers, but I have backup. And if I need to go stand alone, I can do it. So, and again, because I've had that happen to me as well. I've had computers crash, but I was able to just buy some time till I was able to reboot into plug in and maybe play my iPad or play something on my phone that I could get by until we get to those points. But make sure I have those important songs all on another CD.
Gotcha.
Just in case. So I got all the ceremony music. So I think it's important just to be prepared.
Okay.
That's all. Yeah.
Got you. So speaking of prepared, obviously going into, private gigs such as weddings, you have to prepare your set list. But every time you DJ, do you prepare a set list for it or a crate, or do you just, free ball it?
Don't necessarily free ball. I always prepare. Free balling can be dangerous sometimes, depending on where you are. No, actually, I do prepare for every set that I do. Okay. As you've been a little bit more seasoned, you kind of have stuff already set up. You're like, well, I know I can go to this crate and I can get this right here. But, music changed weekly. What was hot yesterday is now 2 days later may not be that hot. Or it might have ran its course. So it's like, all right, let me make sure I kind of keep my ear to the street of what's going on and what they're playing, and try to make sure I have those songs ready to go just in case. And so I try to prepare based upon who's going to be there, my audience, and where I may be able to go. 80 to 90% of the time, it may go left. Totally left, because you prep one way, then you get there and it's like, well, those people didn't show up. Now what am I gonna do? Well, I got to read the room and see who's in there. Once I determine who's in there, then it's like, okay, let's try this and see how they react. Oh, I got them. All right, now I know where I'm going to go with this group. I see where they're feeling it, and that's kind of how I do. I always leave room to make sure I can, pivot to go in a different direction. Because you just never know. You can come, like I say, be prepared for one thing, and they totally not feeling that, and it's like, geez, okay, this is going to be interesting.
Right.
So I got to feel these folks out.
So speaking of filling folks out, like, the ability to read a crowd, do you rely on that? And how well are you at the skill of reading a crowd?
I think it's very important. I think it's more important sometimes than your actual so-called preparation beforehand. I mean, you got to be prepared for who you're walking into the room to perform for, but you also got to know your music. So that doesn't necessarily mean you're gonna come in and you just got to play all the bangers. My thing is, I try to create a vibe wherever I go, no matter what the audience is,
right?
And it's kind of like in waves. So you got to see who's there. Okay, where I'm gonna start, and then we're gonna go on a ride. Until we get to that point where we reach the crest of that roller coaster before I'm about to take you real fast down, and we just gonna have a good time and all that excitement during that time of that party. So I think being prepared is really important, but I think being able to curate the right playlist and the right music for that event is just as important. Because, like I said, anybody, you can get a DJ that can just play the records, but you got to know what to play, when to play it, and how much of it to play,
True.
Based upon where you are at the party and what where you are in that groove and that set. Early on, you're not going to play all those bangers early. You just kind of get people warmed up,
Right. So, thank you for sharing that. Let me ask you this, because you had mentioned about music changing a lot and quickly. All right. So like, what's your process for discovering new music? Like, how do you go about discovering new music?
I just like to listen to music whenever I get a chance.
Okay.
I'll check the top 20 and see what's out right now in terms of across different genres.
Okay.
And then I just listen, when I'm out, you'll hear stuff and I talk to people. I got three sons at different ages, from 21 or 20 all the way up to 35 years old. So it's like they're in that pocket of what's popular for that generation. So that helps me with the newer stuff.
Okay.
And then I talk to the young kids too, even the high school kids. I do a lot of high school events, and I'm very blunt about it. I'm like, when I'm doing something for these high school kids, I ask them, what do you want to hear? Make my job easy, and then from there, much like I do with my weddings, give me 20 songs that you really want to hear, that you really like right now. And I can build off of that, based upon what you give me. So yeah, I think that listening to music and just hearing what's out there and then figuring out where I can maybe fit that in, and maybe I try to expose people to new music. That's what I like to do. I don't like everybody playing the same thing all the time. That gets boring. It's kind of like how I feel about line dancing. Line dance is cool. Not a huge fan of it, but I play it because it's not about me. It's what the people want. But I'm going to try to show you some other things with it. So I might mix it with something else that you didn't even know about. You're like, I actually like that. That's the only way you're going to learn about new music. So try to expose folks to do that too. But that's kind of the ways I try to keep up with the music that's out there, that's coming out too.
Yeah. They'll find a line dance for that one too. So
yeah, they will. And it drives me banana. Like I said, in Cleveland, we are the line dance capital of the world.
I've seen
me.
I've seen it from my own eyes. And
it's tough. And it's funny because I'm at a point now where I only play line dance if they ask me to.
Gotcha.
If they don't ask me, I'm not playing it, because they literally have places people go just to line dance now. That's one of the things they do up here. There's line dance instructors. There's line dance Thursday nights. We go here line. We'll go there. I'm not the line dance DJ guy. You got people in that genre. I mean, in that department that do that. Go see them. I'm here to vibe. We're going to have a good time. We're going to party. We're not doing 900 line dances all night. Not going to happen. And don't get mad at me if I don't have it.
Oh, boy. They will get mad at you if you don't have they song.
Excuse me. Yes, they're like, you don't have my song? What do you mean you don't know that song? I got my fan and everything. I'm ready to pop my fan and all. I'm like, man, no, I'm not playing that song. I don't know what that is.
Yeah. What's one thing that you wish you would have known as a younger DJ that you know now? What one piece of advice would you give to your younger self?
Be open.
Okay.
Be open to new things and be open to different things. One of my mentors that started me out in the game, that helped me out a lot, he was my neighbor. He stayed right around the corner from me, but he DJ'd a lot of different events. So I would talk to him. I would get equipment from him. But the one thing he told me, he was like, hey, man, you ought to come start doing these parties with me. And he said, if we really do well, we make a lot of money on it. And I'm like, what are you doing? He's like, oh, yeah, man, we play country music and I play, a lot of pop. And I was like, nah, I'm not really feeling that. I'm kind of an R&B and hip hop guy. I'm not really feeling this country and pop. He was like, I'm telling you, you can make a lot of money. I'm like, I'm good, bro. You go ahead. That's your market. You do that. Yeah, about 5 years later, I'm doing all those same parties that he was telling me about. So I'm like, damn, if I would have just listened to him then, I would have been so much further ahead of the game. But I think I say all that to say is that I had to open my eyes to so many more opportunities and get outside of my comfort zone, which in turn made me a better DJ, because now I'm more diverse and I'm able to do more events and different type of events, which opens up the window of, financial opportunities. You can do this, and this, as opposed to just one trick pony. I'm going to eat all the day. I'm always going to be able to find work because I can do any event in any crowd. So that's one thing I pride myself in.
Yeah, you definitely got to be, you got to have some diverse genres in your pocket and be able to do multi-genre crowds, because you're not going to last. The one-trick ponies, although maybe legendary.
Yeah.
That's
how many legendary spots are you going to get to on a regular basis? That part.
Right.
It's like,
So Do you want to share one of your wildest gigs, if you're allowed to?
Wildest gigs. I'm like, man, what was wild? Wild. I wouldn't just say it was wild, but I think it was when I think people realized that I do more than what they thought I did. So, I used to do a lot of events with bands, and this particular was New Year's Eve, and we did it at a hotel, and they had a restaurant bar inside a hotel, big, nice size restaurant and bar in there. So they had a big club in there, dance floor, lights, the whole nine. So we were set to do our party from, I want to say it was like from 10 to 1 for New Year's Eve. Well, I got there early to start off the party. So the party started like around 8 o'clock. Well, during that time, there are patrons in the hotel. There's all kinds of people. So everybody that came for the party that we were doing, some people were staying at the hotel, so they were already there. So they were hanging out and everything in the club and everything. Well, it was a very diverse audience. I mean, there were people there from conventions, and they were just there on the road and stayed there. So there was a whole diverse audience of white, black, Latin, all kinds of people that were there that weren't necessarily coming to this party. Well, they were in the club ready to kick it.
Okay.
So one of those got to read the room, and they were like, well, I'm ready to go. We could play. So the people that came for the New Year's Eve party saw this totally different audience. They were like, they didn't know all these people were coming. Well, I'm playing for that audience. And they were looking at me like, how do you know this music? I mean, the dance floor was packed. We were partying early, and I'm playing all the pop and rock songs. And they looking at me like, how did you know how to play this? And I'm like, I've been doing this a long time. I said, you guys just only see me at maybe some of the clubs and all these other places. But I said, I have a whole nother book of business that I deal with on a regular basis. And this is what I do. So the look on the faces of people that thought only did one thing and saw me rock a totally different audience that they had never been a part of, much less seen, and see me do it, it just blew their mind. So they were just like, wow, I had no idea. And I'm like, yeah, this is what I say about what I wish I would have learned early on. Now that I know that, I've cultivated that whole piece and made sure that's a big part of what I do to be able to do anything, But it was funny just to see the looks on their face. It was just like,
right.
Like, what you know about that song? I didn't even know that song. How do you know that? I'm like, research, know your audience.
Definitely got to know your audience. So
yeah, that wasn't tear up the club type ratchet set audience. No. This was the straight pop top 40. We going rock. It was almost like yacht rock in a lot of ways. Maneuver through some Motown and then come through the 80s and some Elton John and everything, and there's some Queen, and they're like, yo, I had no idea. Then, as quick as that went on, about an hour later, we turned up. We all the way into the Nelly and Biggie bag and Tupac. We playing some everything. They're like, wow. And for them to sit there and watch that whole transformation blew their mind. But okay. I love that part.
Well, which leads us into the next thing. Speaking of transformations and things like that and winding up, what about your wind down? So we're going to talk about bourbon. So obviously, as you can see, the bourbon of the day is why don't you introduce the bourbon of the day?
Yes. Today, we're going to talk about the bourbon of the day for Rell E Rell is Uncle Nearest, particularly 1884. I like 1856 as well, but this is probably my go-to. Black owned. Love to supporting it. It's just super smooth. I just love the taste and it's just a good drink when I'm trying to just relax and days I don't have to DJ and I can sit back and maybe have a cigar and sit back and have a little bourbon. I go to Uncle Nearest. That's my go-to.
Yeah, and it's a great story behind that as well. And you can look it up.
Yeah. Very and that's what it was. Once I found out, and like I said, I'm relatively new, I think, to the whole bourbon game in terms of my I've probably been doing it about 4 or 5 years now. Okay. So I'm a little bit more seasoned than I was in the beginning, but I had no idea. But one of my cousins was big into it. And he was like, all right, I'm going to get you into the bourbon. I was like, all right, let's try it. And then one of my neighbors took me through a whole process of clearing the palate and the whole nine and knowing the different notes and everything. So I've become a lot more educated on bourbon and just say I drink bourbon now, knowing how it tastes, and the more you drink it, the different it's going to be and how you pair it with certain things. So it's been a fun education about bourbon and how it just the way it tastes and the way you try different ones and what you find that you like, and turn around and you find something you didn't know you like.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So many bourbons. Oh my gosh, they're like line dancers. They come out every week.
That's true. There's new ones every week. With speaking of the Uncle Nearest, like, do you remember the first time you tried it? Like, what was your thoughts on your first sip?
First time I tried Uncle Nearest, I want to say it was I initially tried wine testing at was at one of the Winking Lizards. They had their whiskey bar, and we did a flight and started off with Four Roses. And that was like the first one I started with. And they had suggested at that time, but we had to go, so I couldn't do Uncle Nearest there. And it wasn't until I went to another event and they had it, and they were talking about it was Black owned. And I was like, wow, really? I didn't know. And started reading about the story about it. So I tried it and was like, man, this is different. I didn't even know about it. You hear about the one popular ones and everything. And when I tried it, everybody's like, gotta try Buffalo Trace. Okay, I tried it and it was amazing. I love it. But then they was like, try this too. And man, it just blew my mind because it was so smooth. And I was like, yeah, I like this. I think I'm gonna drink this more. and got hooked.
Okay. Yeah. So let's get into what we call this or that. It's the rapid fire questions. I'm gonna ask you a couple of series of questions and you just gotta pick this or that. All right.
All right. If you say so.
Ready? Okay.
I'm ready.
Right.
Let's go.
Vinyl or digital?
Vinyl.
Club or festival?
Festival.
Open format or genre specific?
Open format.
Okay. Headphones on or off?
On. I'm not a battle DJ.
Okay. Well, turntables or CDJs?
Turntables.
All right. Day party or late night set?
Day party.
Okay. All right.
Day party.
So opening set or headliner?
I'm cool either way. It's tough. I'll probably do it. I'll probably headline. Yeah, I headline. I've done them both.
Okay.
So I'm cool either way.
All right. So last one.
Okay.
80s or 90s music?
90s.
90s. Okay.
90s.
All right.
90s.
All right.
Yeah. 90s had the best. I'm a hip hop R&B head.
Mm-hmm.
I think we had the best era of hip hop in the 90s.
Yeah. Yeah.
And R&B.
Although people will argue with you on that.
Oh, I'm open for the argument all day. But I mean, it's a lot. And I've done both. And I've loved the 80s. Man, I love the 80s.
Mm-hmm.
But the 90s, I think, to me, if you gave me a genre to do, give me the 90s. Give me the 90s.
I agree with that. So, what's going on next for you? What do you have going on?
Next, like I said, I just finished doing I do a lot of basketball and sporting events during the winter months. So basketball, wrestling, things like that. And they're like, do that. Yeah, but I DJ for those games and everything. That's pretty much done now. So now I'm about to start moving into wedding season. So just gearing up, get myself ready. During the wintertime is when I do a lot of maintenance, make sure all the equipment's all updated, make sure if there's anything I'm going to get, I try to get it before I get rolling. As far as adding to the arsenal, lighting, things like that, microphones, whatever I may need. And then just doing maintenance. I just updated my website. So doing those kind of things and continue to market. And hopefully I'll be doing some more trade shows this year to try to continue to grow and expand the business and continue the branding and just keep my name out there and keep busy.
Okay. And speaking of keeping your name out, like one thing that we didn't talk about, I'm giving you an opportunity to talk about now, is the up and coming influx of streaming DJs. So how did you get involved with that?
Wow. Well, long short story. Pandemic started. We were all trying to find a way to help people kind of free their mind of all this craziness that was going on. So started streaming during the pandemic. Started on Facebook and was doing that. And then my son, we all got frustrated from getting cut off from kicked out every 10 minutes and restarting and starting and restarting and starting, and that was just getting annoying. But then my son told me, he said, Dad, you got to look into Twitch. I'm like, Twitch? What's Twitch? He was like, it's gamers, but he goes, I see some DJs on there, and he said, they on there all the time. I'm like, really? Okay. Little research, got on the Twitch and started doing that. And I told people, I'm like, hey, we can do this nonstop and not get kicked out. Okay. All y'all, if y'all really rocking with me, we're going over to Twitch. I'm leaving Facebook. We're going over here. So I had about a good 50 or so strong that stayed with me, and we went over to Twitch and continued to rock out over there. And pretty much it'll be 5 years in April that I've been streaming on Twitch still.
Congratulations on that.
It's been amazing, man. Thank you so much. It's been an amazing ride. The things we've learned, the people that I've met, the relationships that have been built. I would have never fathomed out of me meeting the people. Heck, you, for instance, we probably would have never got to really know each other as close as we do had it not been for Twitch. And we're still in the same state. So imagine, you know, when I tell you I know people in the UK and in Brazil and in France and Japan and all these other countries, the UK, everywhere, and it's like Canada and as well as the States, and like literally could pick up the phone and call these people. That's just blows my mind. I would have probably never known these people had it not been for Twitch. So
speaking of which, like how can they find you? Like, what's all your handles? How can they find you on Twitch and other platforms?
Okay, well, you can find me on Twitch, where I usually stream about 3 days a week right now, Monday, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on twitch.tv/DJ Rell E Rell. That's RELLE, twitch.tv/DJ Rell E Rell. Find me, search, follow me, and then turn on your notifications, and you'll see when I go live. You can also find me a lot on Instagram at DJ Rell E Rell, DJ RELLE. Look for my face. You'll see me on there. I do a lot of posting there. Also on TikTok, Facebook, pretty much same tags. You can find me, but the bulk of what I do, you see me on Instagram. And then you can also find me on Twitch. So that's the best way. And then you can also go to my website. You can find me at djrellerell.com or www.rellerell.productions, which is the company name, rellerellproductions.com, which is RELLE productions.com.
Well, I appreciate you being here and being a guest here on Beats and Bourbon.
Man, thank you for having me. I appreciate you putting this together.
Have it any other way, man. Is it one last thing that you would like to say to the people before we get out of here?
Man, just continue to love on one another. We're living in a crazy time right now, and you know, we got to make sure we stay prayed up and look out for one another, and just continue to just try to grow and spread love, man. There's too much negativity out here, so I just want to see everybody happy. I want to see everybody win. So just stay positive out here, man. Just keep this thing going and continue to listen to music, man. Music is everything, man. That is musical therapy, man. That's what we're here for.
Yeah. No, you hit the nail on the head. I appreciate you being here. Beats and
Thanks
Bourbon,
for having me, bro.
And come back anytime.
Please.
For all those that's out there, make sure that you're subscribing, make sure that you're sharing, make sure that you're following DJ Rell E Rell. All right?
Appreciate you, Vader, man. Love you, bro.
Appreciate you. Right back at you, man.
All right, man. Take care.
Take care. All right, so there you have it. Another episode of Beats and Bourbon. My name is DJ Vader. Make sure that you follow us, make sure you subscribe to us, and make sure you share the stream. All right, we'll see you next time on Beats and Bourbon.